Hey equestrians, Polly from Blue Ribbon Law here, and today I'm going to talk with you about sales commissions. Growing up in the industry, I've seen it all, from no commissions being charged all the way up to a 20% commission for a six-figure horse. While there's no regulation on the amount of commission that a sales agent or trainer can charge, in California we do have a disclosure law. So today I'm going to explain to you what that law is, how you comply, and what happens if you don't comply. But let's start with a story of how we ended up with this relatively new law. Back in the early 2000s, a prominent businessman named Jess Jackson was involved in the horse racing industry. At one point, he owned over 100 racehorses and 2 horse farms. Over a 20-month period, he was defrauded by his former agents, trainers, and advisors out of $2.5 million. Their scheme was simple and effective. Refuse to put anything in writing, lie about the true prices of the horses, inflate the purchase price, and keep the overpayment. As you can imagine, he was pretty upset when he realized that this fraud had taken place. And so he set out to get legislation passed, both here in California and in Kentucky, to prevent this from happening to other people. I had the opportunity to work with some of his attorneys to help get legislation passed in California that now affords some protections to consumers in horse transactions. What the law says. California Business and Professions Code section 19525 states that any sale of a horse must be accompanied by a written bill of sale that states who the buyer and seller are, the purchase price, if any commissions are being paid, and if an agent is acting as a dual agent representing both the buyer and the seller. How you comply. If you've watched my video on an introduction to equine law or the one on why not to use do-it-yourself contracts from the internet, you've seen reasons why it's so important to have an attorney draft you a contract that complies with state law. In order to comply with our California law, you need a written bill of sale that lists at a minimum the names of the buyer and the seller, the purchase price, the names of the agents or trainers, the specific amount of commission to be paid, and I always suggest who's responsible for paying that commission, as well as if an agent is working for both the buyer and seller. What happens if you don't follow the law? I understand from talking to hundreds of trainers over the years that some of them just don't want to disclose their commissions. Maybe it's that they don't want the trainer on the other side to know how much they're taking, or maybe it's for other reasons and they just want to keep their affairs private. But if you don't disclose your commission, you could be facing a very expensive lawsuit. On top of the legal fees, you could be liable for treble damages. That's 3 times the amount of damage. So while I understand you might want to keep your affairs private, just disclose the commission because the monetary risks and risk to your business reputation are just too high. You might be asking yourself, well, Polly, what about a paid lease where a trainer gets paid a commission? Does that need to be disclosed? Or what about when I bring a horse in and don't charge training or board because I know I'm going to get my expenses back when the horse sells? Well, this is a gray area of the law, one that the statute certainly doesn't contemplate. But my advice is always transparency is key. If you disclose the money that you're paid, both you and your business reputation are protected. At Hay and Hay, we've drafted hundreds of sales and lease agreements over the years. You may have heard me say this before, but generally speaking, no transaction is identical, which is why having a trusted equine attorney on your team is critical to make sure that you're not going to be liable for the types of damages our laws allow. If you're in the middle of selling or buying a horse, or want to make sure you're protected from huge losses in the future, visit our website to learn more or call our office today. We look forward to hearing from you.